Good morning, everybody. It's your boy D Mac. So let's talk about it. Militia groups here in the United States during the 2020-22 seasons, 2021 and 2020 seasons. I meant to say we saw a whole lot of militia groups just pop up out of nowhere, and we didn't know any of these militia groups existed until they popped up and started to organize and started to um, fight against protesters. A lot of these organizations, we remember Charlottesville, we had groups pop up there. And then in Kenosha, we had groups to pop up there. And everywhere we've seen a protest, we've seen these different groups start to pop up. All of these militia groups, these paramilitary groups are popping up all over the United States and making themselves known now. But this is something that has been a hush hush conversation. We've seen these militias pop up whenever it's time for protests. We've seen them pop up whenever the Klan doing their rallies. Because guess what? Most of these militia members are Klansmen. Most of these militia members are police officers. Most of these militia members are the doctors and the lawyers and all of those different areas. So when we look at these militia groups, there's more into it than just a bunch of dudes with guns. These guys are organized. If I'm not mistaken, a militia group paid for Kyle Rittenhouse to like the things that he needed when he was locked up and all of that stuff. They paid for it. That came out of the militia groups who was in support of Kyle Rittenhouse. You have members of the NRA in these militia groups. These are like high positions that these people hold, and they are in these militias. And we've seen these militias come out during January the 6th. They were in full gear. They was all ready to go. Why? Because they practiced this stuff. They didn't just come together for January the 6th. These groups have been practicing for moments like these. They've been in the woods. They've been getting their guns together. They've been making sure that their finances are straight. They've been making sure that they have the law on their side because, like I said, they have lawyers within their groups, and so they have everybody in every auxiliary making sure that that entity moves and functions the way that it's supposed to. That's why on January the 6th, you saw what you saw, because those paramilitary groups, those militias came out in full mass. This was their opportunity to put into play everything that they had been practicing for all of these years out in those woods, wherever they were. Now, let's look on our side as black people. What militia groups do we have? We have one militia group, the Not Fucking Around crew, the Not Fucking Around coalition, excuse my language, but that's just what they're called. And they're ran by Grandmaster Jay. And they came out in 2020, whenever the Breonna Taylor issue came up. We had them to come on the scene, and we saw for the first time a black organized coalition or militia. And they came out in force and it looked good and all of that, but when it really came down to business and them alphabet boys got on the NFAC's head, we haven't heard anything from the NFAC nor Grandmaster Jay since then, and that was in 2021, I believe, early 2021. So where does this leave us? Well, this leave me in a position like this. We need more black coalitions. We need more black militias and organized groups of men, women, and what I'm saying, whoever wants to be a part and contribute. We need that. We see that there's a major, major disparity in that area as shown by the recent acts. All of these different militias popping up for the other people, but we don't have anything to protect ourselves. So when something pop off, We are not prepared. And having a conversation the other night with my boy Phonics, and on his show, y'all remember Write the Truth. Go over to Write the Truth and check out his content, because the brother has some great topics and he has some great information over there. So salute to my boy Phonics. But we was talking about um, what would what do black people need to do as far as protecting ourselves if something was to pop off in the United States, military wise. Say we had a tyrant, another tyrant in office, and they turned the military against the people. What would we have as black people, as a black community, as a whole black community? What would we have to protect ourselves? How would we communicate with each other if all of the power was turned off? Say we got attacked and all of the power went down, no internet, no none of that. How would we organize? How would we communicate with each other? How would we be able to band together in order to protect our communities? And black people, we have no militias. I've only seen that one. That's the Not Effing Around Coalition, and the FBI, the CIA, or whoever brought a little bit of heat down on the leader, and all of a sudden they just fell off the face of the earth. Whether that was to fall back and regroup and rebuild things back up, or to get things in order so that they can't be harassed. I don't know what the reason is, but all I know is that the NFAC fell off the face of the earth after Alphabet Boy started messing with them. And so we as black people, and I thank the brother that was on the show that night. Once again, y'all go tune in to the shows. But he posed that question, and that started me to thinking, what would we do if something was to pop off? I know we have where I'm from, I'm in Killeen, Texas, home of Fort Hood, one of the largest military installations in the world. And so there are many of us soldiers around here who have gotten together and we've talked about these scenarios. And if something was to pop off in this area, then we somewhat have a halfway done plan in place as far as organizing, getting together, who's got what, and things of that nature. But I feel like we need a more of a conscious effort in organizing this and really having it together and really having a plan. So if something was to go down in each city, the men who are willing to stand up, the men of valor, the men who are ready to take action, have a plan. I'm not calling to arms all men, because I understand that not all men have the heart or the mind to be a part of something like that. You're going to have a lot that's going to stick their head in the sands. We understand that. But this call is for the men of action, the men who are willing to stand up and do something. Because, like I said before, something pops off. We can't wait for the NFAC to show up, if they show up. Because, like I stated earlier, I noticed that they only showed up for one or two things. But when things were popping off across the country, that group wasn't able to show up there. They weren't able to get together and move as a unit to a whole nother state and stand up for the people there. They're not moving around like that, protecting everybody. So we need an installation in every state. This is something that I'm noticing about these white right-wing militias. They have a group in almost every state, from state to state to state. They have a ledger. It's kind of like the Masons. They have a lodge in every state. Some of them, multiple ones in that state, in different cities. And they communicate with each other and they are organized. We have to do this, black men. This is something that we have to do. And like I said before, it's not going to be all black men. We have the ones who are preoccupied with killing each other. So we're not talking about those guys. We can deal with them later on once we get enough numbers, and then we can start to address those internal things like that. because there's power in numbers. And that's something else that formulated in my mind. If we had a group like the NFAC, we could challenge these drug dealers. Why wouldn't we be? If you saw a group of 100 black men with high powered artillery, you show me a child that's going to stand up to that. You show me a child, even a child with a gun out here in these streets is not that stupid. They understand force. They understand the show of force. They understand power. And if these gang members, these little children out here in the street saw actual grown men who have a plan and who have strategically put themselves in those positions, and they've become a group and they've come out to confront those little boys, them little boys gonna move around, or either those little boys gonna get in line. I promise you that on everything. I guarantee you that on everything. If we had black militia groups, our neighborhoods would not be what they are. The people in Afghanistan, their country was saved by a militia group. Yeah, you can call the Taliban what you want to. You can discredit the Taliban. You can try to demonize the Taliban all you want to. But the fact of the matter is, these are the facts. In the 90s, that is the group that our government was funding to be able to push Russia out of Afghanistan, a militia group. And that same militia group is running that country right now. So don't tell me that a militia group can't make a difference. Don't tell me that a militia group cannot save people, because the Taliban are a prime example of a militia group doing just that. And so this is the mindset that I'm starting to gear myself up into. And I'm so grateful to them brothers over there at Right to Truth, man, for having this conversation, because it sparked something in me and it put something else on my mind that I hadn't been thinking about. This is the way that we can take our neighborhoods back. Forget, let's for a second, let's forget the tyrant in government. These militia groups made up of uh, armed, legally licensed black men who have organized and who have come together for a common cause, can absolutely 100% run all of these gangs, and these little children who have not been raised right, not been guided right. We can run that stuff out of our neighborhoods. We absolutely 100% can, with a show of force in the hood. When they see 100 black men in the hood, all armed to the teeth, what are they gonna do? What are these children gonna do? They're gonna bow down. They're gonna get in line. They're gonna line up because that's what they respect. They respect the show of force. They respect power. They respect coordinated efforts. That's what they respect. And if we was to show that in our neighborhoods on a daily basis, then they're gonna move away or they're gonna fall in line. So I am definitely 100% on board with starting up a militia group here in Killeen, Texas. So if there's any like-minded people here in the Central Texas area who would like to organize and start up a militia group for us as a people, and to give people instruction on gun safety, how to get your license, how to do all of the legal things so that you can be able to effectively protect your neighborhood and your family as well. This is what we need to do. These are the steps that we need to start taking yesterday. You understand? Because the other militia groups are ahead of the curve. They understand what's necessary. You saw that on January 6th when they felt like they needed to go out and act and do something in force. They had the numbers, they had the weaponry, they had everything that they needed except for the brains. That's the only thing that they were missing, was the brains. And so let's learn a lesson from them. Let's learn a great lesson from them. Let's learn to organize. Let's learn to make sure that we have a safeguard in place for when something happens. That's logical. That's only the sane thing to do. Anyone who wouldn't think to protect themselves in that nature, you're really slipping. And we've been slipping for a long time. We lacking because let's be honest, black people, if somebody made a efforted attack just towards black people, we wouldn't have nobody in a mass group to protect us. We would be individuals out here fighting on our own. So I am heavily in favor of militias. I'm going to push this narrative of having a militia for as long as it's on my heart and mind to do so. And I will be putting in all of the work to find out what it takes to start my own militia. It starts with one. It starts with one man with a vision moving forward to make things happen. And as you move forward and you begin to make things happen and people see the progress, they'll start to catch on and they'll start to move with you because they see the vision and they get the idea. And so this is what I'm advocating right now. This is what I'm pushing, and this is what I'm putting all my effort into is building up a black militia force to be able to stand up for the community. And that's against domestic terrorists as well as foreign terrorists. And you know who domestic terrorists are? Gang members. Because if you go back to last year, they officially put gang members on the United States terrorist list. And so now they can call you a terrorist, and that puts you in a whole different set of rules and laws right there when you've been labeled a terrorist. And so let's get these militia groups up and popping so they can't just put that label on any group of black people who are organized. Because remember, not Al Qaeda, but Taliban, they went from being a militia group that the people loved over there to a terrorist organization based on the fact that they wouldn't let the United States come in and do what the United States wanted to. So the United States labeled them terrorists and tried to demonize them, even though they were the ones who funded them. So get an understanding of what a militia is and what a militia's real operating procedures are and what a militia's function is within that country and that environment. Because a militia can be the difference between life and death. A militia can be the difference between dictatorship and freedom. So like I said, that's really all I gotta say about that. But militia groups, I'm petitioning. I'm like I said, I'm starting today. I'm looking up the info, and I'm gonna start going through the channels to get a properly legally licensed black militia group going. And like I said, anyone in the Central Texas area, that's Killeen, Temple, Coppers Cove, Austin, anywhere within a 50-mile radius of Killeen, Texas. You can get in contact with me. You can hit me up on YouTube. You can hit me up on Instagram at Deacon Mac 2. You can hit me up on TikTok, Facebook, wherever you want to, and we can talk about this more in depth. But yeah, militias, a black militia, not just one. We need a militia group, at least one in each state, if we can do that. One black militia group with at least 50 members in each state. We need this. This is something that could change the scope of the black community forever. This is something that could push the drugs out of our community. This is something that could push the violence out of our community. And yeah, you know, you got men with guns going in to get men with guns out. But I remember this saying, and I'm going to paraphrase because I don't want to mess it all the way up. But it's like, um, sometimes the good guys are the best killers. Sometimes the good guys or the hero has to be the best killer. And that's a true statement. Sometimes the good guys have to be the best and most vicious killer in an instance in order to gain that freedom and that liberty for the people. It's going to come at a cost. It's going to come at some bloodshed. And guess what? The good guy oftentimes is the most ferocious and savage killer. So this is the mindset that I'm taking going into this endeavor, man. And I'm going to keep you guys posted on the progress of this, because I'm not just going to say this and just stop at talking about it. I'm going to make moves to make this happen. And wherever I end up, that's where it ends up. But it's in the works. Just know that. So hit me up and let me know. Give me some feedback or whatever. But regardless of what anybody says, D-Mac is moving forward with this, because I've just had a revelation about these militia groups that everybody else need to get up on. So I'm gonna go ahead and get up out of here right now and go ahead and get my research started. And y'all have a blessed day, man. You know what I say. Sticks and stones can break your bones, but the word can always heal you. I'm out.